Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras. And before we begin, we want to remind you again that for more of the best content from Israel, sign up today for our streaming platform, ILTV+. Now, coming up in today's newscast, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett returning from his trip to Moscow, where he tried his hand in mediating a ceasefire with Ukraine. Meanwhile, thousands of Ukrainian refugees likewise arriving in Israel as the conflict seemingly sees no end. And finally, Israel health experts and authorities setting up shop along the Ukrainian borders. Begin, 2 Israeli police officers injured during an early morning stabbing attack in Jerusalem. This after a 19-year-old Palestinian suspect walking up to the 2 officers who were stationed at one of the old city gates and then pulling out a knife to attack them. Other officers nearby then responding by opening fire on the attacker and neutralizing him. One officer was injured by the stabbing, the second by the gunfire. Meanwhile, this is the 3rd stabbing attack in Jerusalem in a week. The previous 2 occurring at the Hizma checkpoint, one on Wednesday when a 48-year-old Israeli was stabbed in the neck, and the second on Thursday in which a 40-year-old man similarly attacked. Public Security Minister Omer Bar-Lev putting all officers on alert, tweeting that as the holy month of Ramadan nears, extremists will try to increase tensions in the city. And indeed, while intended to be a month of contemplation, daily fasting and prayer, Ramadan in Israel and the Palestinian territories annually marked by a sharp uptick in such attacks. Now moving back to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett returning from an emergency weekend trip to the Kremlin, where he reportedly tried again to convince Russian President Putin to end the war. And to do so, Bennett taking advantage of the one excuse that permits the breaking of the Sabbath, saving life. ILTV's Asaf Nissan with the details.
חזרתי לפני כמה שעות ממוסקבה ומברלין. נסעתי לשם במטרה לסייע בהידברות בין כל הצדדים, כמובן עם ברכת הדרך ובעידוד של כל השחקנים. כפי שכולנו יודעים, המצב בשטח לא טוב. הסבל האנושי גדול ועלול להיות גדול הרבה יותר אם הדברים יימשכו במסלול הנוכחי.
Together with Zev Elkin, Israel's de facto Russian expert and translator, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett returning from a last-minute trip to the Kremlin over the weekend. In coordination with Ukraine, Germany, France, and the US, Bennett again trying his hand at mediating a ceasefire between Moscow and Kiev. This, as Putin's bloody invasion of Ukraine entering day 11, with little progress towards a conclusion. And in fact, Ukrainian President Zelensky reported skeptical that anything would come of these talks, but both he and Bennett feeling it's necessary to exhaust every option.
אנחנו נמשיך לסייע ככל שנתבקש, גם אם הסיכוי לא גדול. ברגע שיש אפילו פתח קטן, ויש לנו את הגישה לכל הצדדים ואת היכולת, אני רואה זאת כחובתנו המוסרית לעשות כל ניסיון. כל עוד הנר דולק, חייבים להתאמץ, חייבים, ואולי עוד אפשר לפעול.
Likewise, this is at least the 3rd time Bennett speaking with Putin and Zelensky since the start of the Russian invasion, and Bennett reportedly the first Western leader to meet face-to-face with President Putin since the conflict began. Though as expected, it seems that Putin's still holding firm on his position, a message already passed on to Western allies, as Bennett speaking with Ukrainian President Zelensky and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz after the meeting. Now, as for the content of the 3-hour discussion in Moscow, the primary topic being a need for a ceasefire, but Bennett also bringing up desire to establish humanitarian corridors through which civilians could safely flee the fighting. Then further, Bennett discussing the war's impact on Israelis and the Jewish communities, continued Russian coordination with Israel and Syria, and finally, the fall of the invasion of the JCPOA nuclear negotiations with Iran, particularly as Putin calling for Western sanctions to exclude Russian dealings with Tehran, this in an apparent attempt to keep the talks in Vienna from falling through. Again though, it seems that the talk neither curbing Putin's aggression nor the West's desire to negotiate with Iran. And seeing this coming, many Israelis rejecting the attempt, and pointless to begin with.
I think that is no reason to speak with a psychopath. Putin has lost his wits a long time ago, and there is no reason to speak with him.
To watch full episodes of ILTV's Israel Daily and tons of other content from Israel, visit our website at iltv.tv or download the ILTV Plus app.